and I'm going to kick off. I am going to read from my paper because I've just got so much to say, and I will forget it all. If my hands are shaking, I'm not nervous. It's an expression of my excitement to be here today. So if they do start shaking, that's all it is. Don't worry about me, I'm fine. So let's go for it. So we're here to talk about our experiences at RYLA, and I think it's important to talk about the organisation that puts RYLA on and the principles of the Rotary Youth Leadership Award. Rotary International has 1.2 million members and was founded on the 23rd of February 1905. 16 years after Rotary was founded, they had clubs on 6 different continents. In 1979, Rotary started its campaign to end polio, and today only 3 countries remain in a pandemic, down from 125 in 1988. Today, Rotary is truly international, with clubs worldwide that all work together to still fight polio, and with organisations such as Shelterbox using their global network to provide aid to those in need. The Rotary Youth Leadership Award was founded in Queensland, Australia in 1959. Today, RYLA takes place every year all over the world, with thousands attending each year. RYLA is a leadership course developed to promote confident leadership, teamwork, decision-making, problem-solving, and a lot of self-confidence and self-belief through positive reinforcement and reflection. So I'm going to tell you a bit about how our week sort of panned out, and then these guys are going to tell you a bit more about specific things. So our rider experience started at 9 AM at Highfield Farm, Topsham. I showed up with absolutely no idea as to what to expect, and was feeling very, very nervous, and then you realise that everyone else was feeling the exact same way, so then I was fine. I felt good for that. A lot of people that I spoke to who had been on RYLA were quite cryptic as to what to expect. They'd all been very, very positive, and a lot of people were saying it's the best thing that they had ever done. So on Monday, we arrived and we got split into 3 different teams, red, green, blue. We had a talk from David Glover about Shelterbox, and then we did the Shelterbox challenge, which included swimming across a river just to get our tents, and then constructing the tents, which I thought was a bit mean, because for a split second I was a bit worried that if we didn't manage to get our tent, I didn't know where I was going to sleep, and I had a mild panic. And also I didn't want to swim in the river because there were cows upstream and I felt a bit nervous about that. So, a little bit worried. We created a team flag, and then we attended a lecture with John Potter called Punching Above Your Weight in the evening. On Tuesday, we had a lecture with Jack Russell about communication, positive thinking, and learned about different personalities and how to handle them. In our teams, we completed a series of challenges and team reflections after each challenge to earn money. This was not real money. I was excited at first. I think, right, I love it, we get paid and everything. No, fake money. But it was money nonetheless. We had a lecture with Nick Harding on the chimp paradox, and then we prepared our kit for Dartmoor. We travelled to Dartmoor on the Wednesday, and we hiked across the moor. We did the Fogging Tour challenge, which was an abseil, rock climbing, unexploded bomb challenge, and cave rescue. In the evening, we used our money to bid for tarpaulin and tent pegs to build our shelters for the night, which none of them blew over. Some people's shelters weren't quite big enough, and some people did have to sleep outside. And I'm sure that will be covered later. On Friday, oh no, not done yet. Thursday, we broke camp, we returned to the farm, and we all fought for a very good place in the shower queue. We went to Topsham, and we all took part in one of 2 community projects, which actually, the community projects, I think for me, working at Eden was actually probably one of the highlights of the week for me, definitely. We attended a lecture on love and fear with Michael Griffin that evening, and on Friday we all packed up, we all prepared our presentations in about half an hour, and I wasn't nervous at all, having had only half an hour presentation preparation, but today I've had like a month, and I think I'm probably more nervous today than I was after only half an hour. And then we all went home after that. So that was our week, and I would like to tell you what I took away from RYLA, but it is very, very difficult to put into words. One RYLA candidate in the past has described it as Camelot. If you know the story of King Arthur, you may recall that as King Arthur was dying in a young man's arms, he turned to the youth and said, "If you learn of anyone that has not heard of Camelot, tell them loudly and clearly that there really was one wisp of glory called Camelot." Now I'm going to tell you about my week at RYLA, but I don't think anything can sum it up quite like that. Before I went to RYLA, my line manager spoke to me and told me to take out of it whatever I wanted. But the one thing she wanted me to work on was that I do have a tendency to see things in black and white, which I'm sure a lot of people would have agreed with. I took this on board with me when I went, and I truly tried to have an open mind with everything and throw myself into new things, which normally makes me quite uncomfortable. But throughout the week, this became second nature. All of the lectures really struck a chord with me, and were probably the parts of RYLA that really stuck with me, not just for my professional life, but my personal life especially. But saying that, Dartmoor was a really profound moment for me. Never did I think I would volunteer to sleep out in a shelter made of tarp in the middle of Dartmoor. Also, the psychological challenge of the cave rescue was quite a moment for me, as I didn't think I did that well in emotional situations, but actually I did really well, and this was actually the challenge that I led that week. You may notice there's a bit of a pattern, that there are so many aspects of RYLA that stay with you. You can't say which moment of RYLA was the moment. But what I can say, and I'm sure that everyone else will agree, is that you come out of RYLA having been the best version of yourself, and that you can't quantify that. Also, a lot of people have said that you don't see the effects of RYLA for a long time. It's something that develops over time. So all I can really say about that is watch this space. Thank you.
I'm shaking already. Alright, so first of all, I'd just like to thank Kay again for giving me the opportunity to go on such an amazing weekend. And although we all shared the same experiences, I feel that we all took away something very different and special to ourselves. I'm going to speak about the personality profiling that we did with Jack on the first night, as it enlightened me greatly for the weekend and how it impacted our team's performance. So Jack taught us that understanding ourselves and others and how we prefer to communicate will greatly enhance our team's performance as a whole and make us better communicators. We broke down that there are 4 key colour codes of personality. Blues, and they're factual and analytical people. They take statistics and make game plans. And I think Sarah and Shannon were both blues. Reds are leader materials. They're disciplined, focused, proactive, and assertive. Yellows are there to have fun. They're enthusiastic and there to create relationships. And greens are team players, and they listen to all. I was a green player. I was a green. I don't know if I was just playing Mr. Nice Guy on the weekend or what, and it was interesting to see how accurately we could judge someone else's personalities by just being with them for a day. So we were all able to guess our leaders' postcodes by the nearest one on the day, which was incredible. We learned that people can be very complex and how the people around them and environment can change the way that we act. However, if we know how to approach the individual themselves, it can be made very simple. From this profiling, we went on to carry out multiple tasks over the weekend using methods of communication that was preferred by the individual themselves. In my opinion, our performance as a group was greatly enhanced from this. We had the opportunity to switch roles between each others and see how we all preferred it individually, and we all had a chance to lead a group on a task ourselves over the weekend. And working with others in team situations is a common occurrence at Eden, and if communication is a large factor that contributes to the success of the team itself, we can all take this away from us now. And so from this, we were able to use our strengths and weaknesses and work with minimal conflict, creating the best outcome. I would also like to speak about a little task that we did called Dyadic Encounter on the second night. And so this was all about personalities and being comfortable speaking to someone else. And this has been one of the greatest tools that I've been able to carry through into everyday life since the course. It has given me the confidence to speak to people I don't know very well in a positive and friendly way. So the task itself was to work through, it was like a workbook with loads of open questions and find out things about your partner. Jack said to us that we will get to know this person better in an hour than we know most of the people in our lives. So we was like, that's ridiculous. And so I was given a partner, he was called Matt, and he was a quiet chap, and I think everyone else can agree. He didn't really speak to many people to start off with. And so we were told to ask a load of open questions in search for a personal and intimate answer, like speaking from the past experiences. And when we were doing the task, we found that we actually ventured really far from the original question itself and spoke about much more than anticipated. So it's all about being comfortable with yourself, your past experiences, and the others around you. So Matt actually spoke to me about an illness that he had growing up and how this led him into a situation of being homeschooled for his childhood. I let him elaborate on this story for a good 10 to 20 minutes, and then he just stopped and stared into mid-air. I was like, "You alright, mate?" And he was he just looked at me and was like, "This is crazy, I don't even know you, why am I telling you all of this stuff?" And so the emotional impact that I saw in him that day, and the confidence that it gave him for the rest of the weekend to speak to others was amazing. So just being given the opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with someone was really good. And so the confidence that I saw that had on him gave me the confidence to believe that I can speak to others just as well as a result of this, and no one will judge you on what you say. And we were having a little chat as well, so it was a mentor type of situation. And so we believe with our apprentices and the new ones coming up, it's nice to have someone out of your original workflow and life to speak to, as you may be given the confidence to say things that you wouldn't usually. So as a whole, the weekend itself was indescribable, and many people will say to you that it won't change a person from the start, but it'll equip them with the tools that they need to keep on developing throughout life. And we can't really stress how true this statement is itself. And so again, I'd just like to thank everybody for the opportunity to go on this weekend. It was amazing. So, thank you.
When we arrived at RYLA, me, Kieran and Matt got out of the car and we looked at each other what are we doing here? And we went to our lecture, and when we came back he said it was going to change our lives, and how we looked at looked at our lives, and we all looked at each other what's he on about? It's an absolute nutter. We just didn't believe anything he said. But we had loads of inspirational talks over there, and they're the things that kind of stayed with me the most, because they sort of went with the activities that we did. So I'm firstly going to talk about Jack Russell, who was with us throughout most of the week. He taught us loads of different things. But he gave us how to use positive thinking to change our mindset, and how that can change our actual performance. So he told us that before you were going to step out of your comfort zone, if someone was don't trip, don't fall, you're more likely to trip and fall, because that's what's going in your mind. So he said if you change the negative to a positive, your outcome will be really, really positive. So then he also said that we did this one challenge where we were in pairs, and we had to, was it the strength of our arms we did? Yeah, how hold your arm out. And he told us to repeat the words saying, "I'm good and I'm strong, I'm good and I'm strong, I'm good and I'm strong." And then he told us to do exactly the same exercise with "I'm weak and I'm bad, I'm weak and I'm bad, I'm weak and I'm bad." And the difference for everybody was so much different, wasn't it? Everybody was so much better when they were doing it with positive words compared to when they were doing it with negative words. This literally then led on to he's the author of the book Don't Tell the Bumblebee. Aerodynamically, a bumblebee should not be able to fly. Its body's too big and its wings are too small. So he basically told us that if you have the faith of the bumblebee, you can fly anywhere and do anything that you aim to do, which Shannon's soon going to find out when she tries to teach me to ice skate in a few weeks. So she just told us that basically if you have the mentality of a bumblebee, you can go to whatever you want, we can achieve anything. This sort of went hand in hand with Michael Griffin's talk about his Love or Fear book. He basically taught us that in any situation, you're only taught to be scared of two things, and it's heights and loud noises. Fear of falling and loud noises. And he basically told us that everything else is done by how you perceive life and the things that you're scared of. So he did this one thing with Jake, actually, who's at the back. He asked for somebody to come and stand up, and nobody at the start went to stand up. And a few moments passed, and then Jake reluctantly got up. And he said that some of you didn't go because you're out of your comfort zone. Some of you just couldn't be bothered. You didn't want to, and the fear of the unknown. When Jake went up, he gave Jake £5, and that was it. And he basically taught us that in a situation, you don't know necessarily what you're going to get out of it until you do it. And he said that you're going to take something away with you that you might not have learned otherwise until you've done that. So that's definitely something I'm taking with me. I always apply that thing to different situations that maybe I wouldn't have done unless he gave us that tool. And definitely, like everybody else said, we're taking all these little things from RYLA, none of us wanted the week to end ever. That's my thing on the improvement form, what do you want to improve that never to end? So I just said that that's why I really never want to end. So we're all just going to take all these little bits with us and RYLA lasts forever.
Alright, I'm gonna talk about Dartmoor, because that was something that stuck in my head a lot more than the rest of the week. And it all started like, we went to Princetown, we were hike across the Globers going to football tour. And then there was obviously, like Shannon said, there were different challenges. One of them was an 85-foot abseil, and on that photo where we were all smiling up at the camera, my smile was 100% fake. And I was lucky I was wearing so many layers down below because I was so scared. But like when I got to the bottom, like I was shaking with adrenaline, and like literally I could have I felt like I could just jump to the top and go back down it again, because I did it and it was awesome. We had an unexploded bomb challenge as well, which our team, the green team, which Jake is in as well, we were definitely the slowest team. We had the least amount of money to spend on our equipment and that. When we got to the exploded bomb challenge, we had to build a raft and safely get the black bombs over with a red bomb. I can't quite remember the whole challenge, but it was a thinking challenge. But we were more focused on trying to be Bear Grylls and make a raft and just have fun in the water. So we rushed to make the raft, and then we took all of them across, and then our instructor just shouts out, "Bang, the bomb's gone." I'm like, "What?" And we had to get back, and then and this was the one that I was leading as well. So I was like, "Ah, man," you know. So it was a thinking challenge, and we all managed to come together, and we all came together and got a good idea of what we was going to do. We did it, and we managed to get it just in time, which was good as well. But we didn't. In the end, in the evening, we had to buy our tarpaulins and stuff for our bivvies, and we didn't have enough money for a lot really. We ended up, we were the first lot out of the auction because we spent all our money. The red team, which Henry was in, they would just look at us, wait for us to bid. Knew they didn't need it, but they bid more because we couldn't have it. And then in the end, Jack, who was the main instructor, ended up giving us some sympathy rope so that we could actually have something above our heads. And I quite like Dartmoor as well, and as Matt would know, when the sun goes down I turn into quite a deep person. I go really deep, and you can't tell Jack this, but me and Henry were sat by the campfire having a couple of fags, and we stayed up quite late. Everyone else was still awake, but our bivvy, the green team, when we tried it out, we all closed it up together, we all could fit under, it was going to be a nice cosy night, we could use everyone's body warmth to keep warm and that. Me and Henry were outside having a really deep conversation, by the campfire, just chilling. And then, so I went to go back in my bivvy, and none of the green team had decided to get all cosy, so they were all just splayed out all over the place, so I had to sleep completely outside. So I was outside the bivvy, but luckily there's a tarpaulin mat underneath me, which could have easily have been put over. And halfway through the night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't sleep anyway, and I felt like the tarpaulin moving. I was like, mate, it's just the wind, it's cool. And then I was like, yeah, let's just go to sleep. And then I felt 2 paws on my back. I absolutely panicked. I forgot everybody's name, and I just started shouting, "Yo, yo, what's behind me?" And it turned out to be a fox, and then we all started clapping it, saying, "Go away." And I was just like, it's not going to understand English. Like, it's a fox. And the fox ended up going away, and one thing that was sticking in my mind about that fox is I turned around to see if it had gone, and it looked back at me almost like, I'm still going to get you. And then a bit later on in the night, it started to rain, and I was outside obviously, and I was like, I'm going to go away, it's cool, I'm not going to wake everyone else up. And then after about half an hour of it raining, George woke up, he's like, "Oh guys, move up, let Kieran in." I'm like, I'm already soaked through, it doesn't make a difference. When we woke up, obviously we broke down the tent, the bivvies and everything, and walked back, and from Dartmoor, I don't know what it was about Dartmoor, but as soon as that was over, it was almost like I learned so much in 14, 18 hours on Dartmoor about myself that, I can do an 85-foot abseil, I can climb up a cliff face, the green team can actually finish the challenge, and and we can build a bivvy when all 10 of us are working together. When we got back, it was almost, everyone was knackered, proper knackered. We were just sat in a big gazebo, and when it was the time for the next challenge, we were like, let's not go clean up, let's not do that. We got it, and it was awesome, and I'm happy Jake and Henry here actually because Jake was in the green team as well, and like we got quite good mates. I hope you'd agree. But it all started because me and Matt, when we got put into our tents and that on the first day, it was obviously boys in one tent, girls in another tent, and me and Matt were like pretty much holding hands, like we're going to be in the same tent. We're not going to get separated up. And Matt was quite annoyed because Jake and George had actually, the tent, we all put the tents up and then we must pick a tent, and Jake and George had stole Matt's tent that he put up. So Matt wasn't happy, and I was like, well, there's 2 spaces there, so I'm going in there whether you're coming or not. So I ended up going in there and Matt didn't, and then like, you know, I was like being really shy. I was just like, you alright mate? Yeah, what's your name, man? Yeah. Started talking, like, you know, asking all these stupid questions, you play football and all that, but then we all got along really well, and like, all 30 of us, like, we were all, by the end of it, we were all friends, and it's just, in 1 week you can get to know a whole group of 30 people, whereas, you know, it took me a lot longer than a week to get to know all the chefs at Eden, and, you know, but yeah, and like they said, it takes a long time to actually change after RYLA. I still think that I have noticed little changes. I haven't been as moody. I think Tony agrees. I'm not sure. Well, they may have been a little bit. Little ones, but I shouldn't have said that really. So yeah, cheers for coming. Thanks for the opportunity to go on RYLA.
Take questions or?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Any questions?
Do you want to give Matt some?
Oh, yeah,
Can't keep your words cooking for long.
Great presentation, guys.
That was brilliant.
It was nice to see as everyone started to talk, how everyone just opened up, relaxed, and talked about the whole week. And I thought that was brilliant.
Just for all of it, it was all of you bringing up memories as well that even I've sort of forgotten slightly. But like you say about the conversation, and then obviously with Matt and the tent, I completely forgot about them stealing our tent. That was really annoying because we spent so long trying to figure out where all the poles go and all of that, and we really heaved together to sort of just build this masterpiece of a tent, and then to come back with all of your gear and find 4 guys inside it was really stressful. But no, all of it, making such great friends, and it was just an unforgettable experience. So on my part, thank you to all you guys for being absolute legends, and thank you to all of you for allowing them to go along with us.
Certificates now?
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah, go on. Good man, good man.
Has anyone got any questions?
We get
No.
that's it.
We did think about it though, but sadly we're all too stingy for that.
You have to sum it up in 1 word.
Amazing. It was amazing.
Unforgettable.
That's mine.
Can I have 2?
That's not
What's
one
the
word.
life changing?
As long as it's not life changing.
Yeah.
Amazingly terrifying.
You all said at different times that you will probably still keep learning from this. In that month on, it's probably 2 months now, isn't it? What do you, after the interview, what do you think is the biggest change you've noticed in yourself?
It's a bit weird, but my road rage has kind of chilled a bit. I know it sounds silly, I know it sounds silly, but in one of the lectures we were told if you get stressed and everything, you're about to get stressed out, just close your eyes. I don't close your eyes. Just looking at Simon there. Close your eyes, just whisper to yourself, change, and then open your eyes again, or count to 10, and then take a deep breath and you're all good. And someone pulls out at me, I'm just like, rather than like change, I just take a deep breath and I'm good, but it does help as well at work and everywhere else, and it's quite a cool little trick.
Mine would probably be like when we got there, and we just looked at this field and we were like, what are we doing here? Like we all judged it way too quickly. I think like you can't really judge what it is until after you've done it. Because we were all so wrong about RYLA, so that's probably something I've definitely.
I think before RYLA, I could be very, very negative. I think if someone came up with a new idea, or if something changed at Eden, or you know, you'd sort of be like, "That's a terrible idea," before you'd really sort of taken the chance to look at the bigger picture. And I think now I do tend to see the bigger picture rather than just a small part of it. And I think I'm probably not. Sounds awful. I wasn't a terrible person before. I just want to say that before I say it. I'm probably not as judgy as I was. I probably don't judge people like I did before. I think you do have a tendency to sort of like, you know, judge a book by its cover, and I think that's probably the biggest thing I've been able to let go. And also realise that I'm far more capable than I think I am sometimes. And if you just jump in and sort of both feet, you realise actually you're not going to sink and you're probably going to be alright.
I've got to watch my mistakes, you're a manager, but don't worry, I'm still working just as hard. But we were all joking the other day saying that RYLA is taking us with our positive thinking. We call it RYLA vibes now, where if something comes up and it's really stressful or it like brings you down, then you have to think about it in the whole aspect of your life. Like, is it really that significant? Nah, forget it. But you know, like, so it's all about positive thinking and turning the negatives into positives.
I think the main thing I've taken away from it is really to use everyone that's around you to help get the task at hand done. It's not always about the individual having the best idea, whereas everyone else probably 9 times out of 10 has a better idea than you do. So that's the main thing I've learned, is to use everyone around you to get everything done a lot quicker and a lot better.
The turning point in the week for me was definitely the point that Sarah said. When the guy presenting that evening asked for a volunteer, and I got to be honest, before that evening we had a few days and he'd really built my confidence, or the course had built my confidence, and I would have never have been that person that put my hand in the air to volunteer, and it was just to give me £5 and tell me to sit back down again. And I think for me, coming back now, I take opportunities so much more than what I have done, and I'm not so afraid. It's definitely given me a new lease of confidence.
You get money out of it.
And you get money out of it.
And I think, for us, I think this is the 4th year, and some gents have done this as well. I think what we see from this each year is each group becomes the ambassador for the next year of what we do. And I know that you can't tell everybody everything that goes on, with a certain amount of it you need to keep quiet, but keep that energy and enthusiasm, because you are the people that will make people want to do that in the future, because they'll see what people are out about.
If I could comment, I think the one thing that Rotary could do with is hearing more of the comments that we've had back today.
Yeah.
Because it's really difficult to persuade all the Rotary clubs in Cornwall to take an interest.
Yeah.
I think we could do with, I mean, okay, it's on the RYLA website, but I'm not really Rotary about it, my husband was. It's quite difficult to get into that website if you're an outside person, and it doesn't really cover RYLA very well, it's often out of date. I was speaking to Jed, and he said he thinks we need a Facebook page or something. So that's something I think we could take on board, and it would be nice to have some of the input that we've had here as part of it. Do you think?
Because I think, year on year, the stories that come out of RYLA are the ones that, embed it for the
I mean, there's so many clubs in Cornwall. I mean, this area got together 6 candidates, and there are only 30 altogether. So we really need all the other clubs to be equally keen. And it's a bit like being brought out for spend sometimes to get them to pay for a candidate.
Only on this heart.
So I think it's up to 28, isn't it? Is it up to 28?
18. Can we all go down here or something? No.
No, it was this. There was a touring German circus one evening, and it was probably 11 and 12-year-old girls. And that was a good start. It was absolutely brilliant, wasn't it? For comic value, and at the end they came round with a hat, and I put my £5 in the note.
That was a bit of an odd thing that John said, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've never seen anything like
They
it.
started doing an act, and then they'd stop it and
They
run
They
off.
all run away.
They literally just scarpered into the middle of a field.
Do you remember she stuck it on a chair as well?
Yeah.
Chair.
Mind you, she did
Get
get back up and carry on perfectly fine. Thought she might have broken her leg, but she was alright. But then she kept running away.
Certificate. Do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to the presentation of the RYLA certificates. My name's Stuart and I have with me Kay. We are one of the 7 people who are on the district RYLA committee. It's us that put this course together and raise the money for the candidates to go on it. Kay's husband, Barry, 22 years ago, set up the course in Cornwall, and unfortunately he passed away 3 years ago. Kay has stayed on the committee to continue his sterling work. I got involved in the course because my son went on this course 8 years ago. A 23-year-old boxer, thought he was very fit, went on the course and came back and said, "Dad," he says, "that's the most difficult thing I've ever done." But the nice thing to know is that even 8 years later, he's still keeping contact with the people who are on his year. I spoke to Edward last night and asked what we were going to do. So he said to his best wishes and said, "Well done for completing the course." Okay. The RYLA course this year expanded because Cornwall and Devon merged as a district, and it wasn't until around about Christmas time that we know we were going to have the finances to put this course on, but luckily we have. The main job of this course for Kay and I and the other committee is to find the money to run this course. We calculated that if this was a commercial project and we offered it to people in the public to come along and join, then we would have to charge a fee of just about under £3,000 per person for the week. Due to sponsorship, very kind sponsorship by companies in Cornwall and in Devon, and also personal sponsorship, we offer the course now for about £650 per person per week. This is meant by the Rotary Clubs of Cornwall and Devon, and also by employees. We'd like to thank, of course, the Eden Project and particularly Jed for his continuous support in the RYLA candidate choosing. I'm told that this was the last year Jed could have gone on the course. It's we run the course for 18 to 28-year-olds, but so you don't look anywhere near 28. You look like it, but the good news is we had a meeting last week. The course will run again next year, probably a day longer to drink a bit more. So that the students get a lot more out of it. But well done to all of them, okay? I was glad that Kieran's anger management is now you could have been the person who was following me down here today because there's somebody tooting and flashing me whether I wasn't driving fast enough as well. So you're out of the... You're okay? And I'm also glad that Jake managed to put £5 in towards a good cause. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you for the £5 to put in for next year's. Anyway, it gives me great pleasure on behalf of the RYLA organisation now to present, or I'm going to ask Kay to present all the certificates because she's been associated with the course a lot longer. So ladies first, could I ask Sarah to come first, please? Right. Well done.
Thank you.
Shannon. Well done. Kieran. Matthew. The four candidates here are all being sponsored for all work reading, you probably know them all. One, I think Sarah was sponsored by Bristol Rotary Club. Kieran, no, forget it. Okay, all the rest have been sponsored by either RYLA, which district committee, which was it was in memory of Barry. And of course, the other one was...
Here was half and half.
Was half and half.
Half I got,
Also in this area, we've asked them to come along today to have their certificates presented, is Jake Street, who was sponsored by IMS.
Yes, it's a shame that
sponsored by Carlisle Bay Hotel, well, through the Brent Group. So it's a pleasure to welcome the General Manager of the Carlisle Bay Hotel,